Things are about to get a lot more dangerous, especially if we stay on the current trajectory that we're on. And you need to be ready and prepared to deal with whatever threats may arise based on the information we're currently receiving. Right now, I personally believe we're about to enter a cycle of violence, and when that occurs, it's very hard to get out of. President Trump just directed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide troops to war-ravaged Portland in order to protect federal property from domestic terrorists, and he authorized the use of full force if necessary. Now, this is something that you definitely should pay attention to because these are catalytic events where someone can leverage an event like this in order to push things over the edge. And you should definitely be concerned about what happens right after that. So we're going to discuss where we're at currently, why you're not necessarily on one side or the other, but you're in the crossfire, and the fact that our enemies are running out of options as soon as we get a word in from today's video sponsor. We have a serious problem regarding trust in policing in this country at this time, which is why today's video sponsor is the Task Force 70 Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides training and education to police officers across the country at no charge to them. Over 70% of police serve communities of 10,000 people or less, which leaves them under-resourced and under-trained to respond to hyper-violent threats, which unfortunately are on the rise nationally. And the Task Force 70 Foundation does all of this through a constitutional framework in partnership with Hillsdale College to ensure that these police officers can not only protect their communities, but that they protect the rights of the citizens within those communities. But they need your help. The Task Force 70 Foundation takes absolutely $0 from the U.S. government in order to ensure that their training is exactly what it needs to be, especially regarding the constitutional principles. And that's why we need monthly donors to sign up at tf70.org/donate. And if you sign up for $20 a month, you actually get some excellent benefits as well, including enrollment in a potential monthly giveaway prize. You get the ability to nominate your local police officers to receive this free training, and you also receive special discounts with some of our partners, including BCM, Blue Force Gear, Nightline Inc., and many others. And when you sign up as a monthly donor, if you use the code MAGIC, you'll actually receive a free TF70 patch as a thank you. So please consider helping out the Task Force 70 Foundation and ensuring that police officers around the country get the education and training required in order to protect their small town communities and ensure that constitutional principles remain in place. There will be links in the description as well as in the pinned comment, and I really appreciate all of your support. By the way, I am involved directly with the Task Force 70 Foundation, and by supporting them, you're also supporting this channel. There are links in the description as well as in the pinned comment if you feel so inclined to help out. Now, where are we currently? Right now, we are right on the cusp of something major. And of course, we don't know if everything is going to accelerate to that degree, but we do have that opportunity presenting itself right now, which is very concerning and why you need to be paying a lot of attention in the sense of situational awareness and informational awareness right this second, okay? Now here's the thing. This doesn't necessarily apply to the left or the right or Democrats or Republicans. That's not necessarily what we're witnessing right this second. What you really need to grasp, and what I'm trying to convey as best I can here lately on the channel, is that we're talking about enemies of America and Americans. And of course, the enemies of America are leveraging whatever organizations that have political sway that they can in order to gain as much power as possible, but they're doing it in a deceptive way. Whereas Americans are just trying to get through things and have ideological differences without moving into a realm of violence. But that's what we're witnessing anyway, because the enemies of us are acting out. Now, even though you might be a Democrat or a Republican or on the left or the right, it doesn't make a difference. You're collateral damage when it comes to the enemies of our country. And honestly, right now you're stuck in the crossfire between a war that's going on in the background that's becoming a lot more public here recently. And because of being stuck in that crossfire, there's a higher chance of you being in danger. So understand that right now what we're seeing is our enemies running out of options, okay? Our enemies have leveraged one side of the political aisle further than the other. And currently, that's through the Democrat Party. But that doesn't mean that Democrats are inherently evil. It means that they are a vessel for which our enemies are operating within, in very much the way a Trojan horse does. And of course, what that creates is division, chaos, and destabilization in the process. But to gain power, you have to leverage what's already existing. And right now, that is what they chose as their vessel. So please be aware of that as well, because although people like myself might be on the right, we have to understand that as Americans, these people don't care what letter you put next to your name. All they care about is creating chaos, destabilization, and taking over our country. So understand this. If we're going to call this enemy the left, which is what it's referred to currently right now based on the administration within power, the left is running out of options, which is why they're acting out violently, because violence has become the only thing they have left, which is why things are so dangerous right now. This is because a lot of the actual legal lawfare that has been fought over the last decade or so has finally played out to the point where those who have the constitutional principles backing their decisions still have options legally on how they can act in regards to trying to delete the actual threat. However, those who have shown their hand and have leveraged too much power that has gone beyond the realm of constitutional law are now without anything left besides violent reaction, okay? And if that's all that's left, that's what they're going to use. I've talked about things on this channel before regarding how they groom, victimize, and target people in order to go out and commit atrocious acts. If you want to watch that video, I'll link it up here in the corner, so that way you can check it out. It's about the modern American battlefield and how it isn't what you think it is. I think it's very important to watch because since that video was made, a lot of things have happened that line up exactly with what we're currently witnessing. Now, if you find this information useful, or if you're just trying to be better prepared for whatever may come next, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, because the movie E.T. scared me as a child, and I'm sure many of you were scared as well. Here's the thing. One of the ways you can see the desperation unfolding right now, which is leading to this violent behavior, is the fact that the people that are still talking have no options clearly. And all they're doing in the sense of prominent figures who are putting themselves out there, knowing that they're being completely hypocritical and saying hyperbolic things that are only making things worse, have no chance of maintaining leadership or power and are prioritizing their own benefit at the cost of everyone else at this moment, because their personal interest has always been more important to them than anything else, including a strategy shift that is what's required for them to maintain any level of actual authority. And what we're witnessing right now, predominantly from the left, is a full-blown lack of leadership. And that leadership vacuum creates a perfect environment for more extreme and radicalized people to try to step up and fill that vacuum, which means they're going to take opportunities and chances in order to establish why they deserve that leadership role, which we all know, with everything we've just discussed, really only means some sort of violent act. Now, here's another thing that you need to be aware of, okay? We know what's been going on in the country regarding a lot of violence. We know the targeting of federal agents and federal facilities, but we also know that we have widespread federal law enforcement throughout the country now that's being put out in a way that we aren't necessarily used to as Americans. So there's a lot of concern and a lot of skepticism that needs to be well vetted right now, because we have to make sure we maintain a level of legality and constitutionality as things progress. However, when violence starts to spiral out of control, there's only one solution to it. And when does that cycle end? And that's my biggest concern right now regarding this cycle of violence that I believe is beginning. So here's one thing that you have to really watch out for and really contemplate if we see more of these types of acts. And I'm going to tell you right now, my personal belief is that I expect more political extremism and violence to happen here in the near future, just based on recent patterns and based on this information that I'm talking with you about right now. The big thing you need to watch out for is additional organized multiple perpetrator events. So what happened back in July when there was an ICE facility that was targeted by 12 individuals? Shots were fired, people finally got arrested, but it was actually an organized attack that was done by multiple individuals, a team effort. And one of those individuals was actually a Marine Corps reservist. So they have people within their ranks that have the training, have the skills, or at least have the basic know-how to go and engage an enemy force, and they're doing it in an organized way. And that was an example of where things have gone over the edge. So if we're seeing more of these organized attacks with multiple perpetrators, multiple armed assailants, and some level of skill, knowledge, and organization that goes above and beyond just a sudden reaction to a different situation, then we know for a fact that things have escalated into a new territory. And that's what I'd be watching out for right this second. When is the next organized attack? When is the next team effort where these people are demonstrating a willingness to get together and do things in a planned and schematic way that allows them to be as effective as possible? And that's what I anticipate here in the near future, which is why not only should you be paying attention in the sense of situational awareness, right? You need to make sure that you know what's happening around you, what's happening in your area, what kinds of groups are active in your area, but you also need to be able to respond to a situation occurring right in front of you. And whether or not that means just having an escape and evasion plan, whether or not that means having first aid and the training to use the first aid supplies that you have on hand, and whether or not that means having access to self-defense equipment in order to get away from a dangerous situation, whatever that means for you is what you need to be focusing on right now, at least in my opinion. This only gets worse before it gets worse. And that's something that we've been hearing for quite some time now, but it's the truth. Because in order to put a lid on this violence, there's only really one way to do it. And all that does is generally spawn more violence. And unfortunately, that's where we're starting at right this second. So let me know what you think about all of this. And I need you to understand one thing that has been saving us this entire time and has saved us up to this point, except for this one example of what happened in Texas in July with these multiple assailants. I believe it was in Prairieland, Texas at an ICE facility there, but don't quote me on that. Either way, what I'm trying to say is that the only reason we haven't seen more of these organized style of attacks is because there's a level of selfishness involved. Because a lot of that ideology and thought process comes from a point of what's best for me. What do I need? What do I want? What do I think is best for me, regardless of how it affects others? And that thought process eliminates the ability to have a level of organization because it's alienating. However, it's only a matter of time before we see more organization occur. So, if you want to support the channel, there'll be links in the description as well as in the pinned comment. If you want to support Task Force 70, I also highly recommend it. And if you want to get more information, go to magicprepper.com. Of course, there's a lot of different information there and a way to contact me directly if needed. And anything else you need from me at all, you can go to Magic Prepper. What the heck is wrong with me? And that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.